What's happening, roadies? This is Grace Royce.
This is Bob Gruen.
What's happening, roadies? This is Brad Tucker, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. All right. What is happening, roadies? Thank you for coming back. This is your host, Larry Milburn. I am coming at you. I promise I'm coming at you, man, from a barn in Northwest Connecticut. How are you? Oh, my God. Once again, a major lapse in new episodes coming out here from the barn, and I apologize as usual. I'm going to get to that. I think that deserves its own special little episode that I'm going to drop in the next week or so. Suffice it to say, things are good. They've taken a bit of a turn work-wise for the good, for the better. But unfortunately, that has taken the place. It has made a mockery of getting these episodes out, getting interviews done, and doing what I love to do for this particular show for you people. So I apologize for that. So I'm going to need to address that. But with all of that out of the way, how are you? I hope you guys are well. I miss this community. I miss interfacing every week in and week out with you all and putting these things out. And I hope everyone's doing okay. Shows are back, man. I have been to some shows and I've had a great time. I've got some great shows on the horizon. I got a Tedeschi Trucks ticket with Ziggy Marley coming up this summer. I got J-Rad, Joe Russo's Almost Dead, coming up in a couple of months. Can't wait for that. My first J-Rad show. Who did I see? I was at the Capitol Theater last month for Brandi Carlile's solo acoustic. Got to catch up with two fantastic traveling professionals, touring professionals. Claire Murphy, guitar tech for Brandi Carlile, and of course, Mr. Fabulous himself, Sean Quackenbush, front of house for Brandi. He's been at it for a long time with her, and she was amazing, man. It was a very cool show to see her solo acoustic, and just a wonderful night to be hosted by the two of them. So thank you guys very much for having me. If I've run into anybody else that I'm forgetting to mention right now, great to see you as well. Great to chat with you. I just, it's been a crazy time. And I will address all of that good stuff. But that's not why we're here today. Today, my friends, we are here to talk about one fantastic event that is coming up with some really, really great people that I've talked about on the show. I've had many of them on the show, and I'm adding two more fantastic people to the list. So we are talking today with Mr. Bradley Tucker and Josh Barron of the Relix world, Relix Magazine, Brooklyn Bowl, Capitol Theater world, and we are talking today about the Relix Music Conference that is happening in Nashville, Monday, April 17th and Tuesday, April 18th. Coming right up around the corner. You're not going to want to miss this thing. I may even be there, and I hope I can make it down there. So Monday, April 17th, Tuesday, April 18th, both days kick off at 9 a.m. This is a premier music conference, unlike anything you're going to get anywhere else this year. That I can tell you. And they're both days are happening at Brooklyn Bowl, Nashville, at 925 3rd Avenue North in Nashville, Tennessee. Killer venue, killer stuff going on. What do we have? What is this? This is 2 full days of panels, conversations, breakfast, lunch, happy hours, and entry into nighttime events, which you know are going to be super cool. Master of Ceremonies is Andy Frasco, and there are a ton of events and panels going on. Let's see. The first one to kick things off, Soundcheck, the State of the Business, Part 1. Moderated by Dean Budnick and people like Aaron Frank, Dana Frank, Josh Rowe, Mary Catherine Kinney, Tara Moore. We got Peter Frampton's going to be there. I believe John Oates is going to be there. There's all kinds of really cool stuff. There's going to be music and just a really cool time to get together and hear what's going on in the music industry from the inside out from people who know it. So I did an interview with Brad Tucker and Josh Barron. These guys are fantastic. Brad Tucker is the senior project manager for Dayglo Presents since 2014. Dayglo Presents is sort of the umbrella company, if you will, that handles Relix and all of the Brooklyn Bowls and all that kind of stuff and all the special events that these guys put on. But he has been with Relix and that world since 2010. He started as an intern to CEO and founder Pete Shapiro at Relix Magazine, and the dude quickly moved right on up the ranks to become Shapiro's executive assistant, and now he, of course, is the senior project manager for Dayglo Presents. Great guy. We've interfaced before. Really psyched to finally have him on the show, and of course, we are also joined very briefly by Josh Barron, who for more than a decade, he's been the editor of Relix Magazine. He's a ticketing industry expert, consultant, and VP of Business Development for Project Admission. Two wonderful guys who just spent, a few minutes with me talking about this conference, what makes it different, who it's geared toward, and why you should try to get there if you can. And if for nothing else, man, why not spend a couple of days in Nashville, killer city, and maybe see some music and learn some things along the way about the event. So check it out. You can go to relixmusicconference.com, grab some tickets. There are still some passes available, and you can get a 1-day pass, a 2-day pass, whatever it is. And as I said, those passes include the 2 full days of panels and conversations, breakfast, lunch, happy hours, and entry to nighttime events. A really great opportunity to rub elbows, shake hands, with some industry experts who, these are killer people, man. They've done this the last few years. It's been in New York. This time, of course, it is moving to Nashville, and I think it's going to be pretty cool. Let me see who else we got here. Ben Blackwell, Braden Roundtree. You got JC Curley from Gibson Brands. All sorts of cool people, man. You're gonna want to hit this thing. You're gonna want to do it. Wasserman Music. It's going to be really cool. And of course, Pete Shapiro, the man himself, is going to be bopping around. So get down there, get to Nashville. I'll let you know if I'm going to be there, and maybe we can rub some elbows and shake some hands. All right, well, let's get to this thing. I want to help promote this thing for these guys. So do what you can. See if you can get down there. If not, well, you know what you're going to do. All right. Listen, guys, I will be back. We got another episode coming up, maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks, a new one for you, something special. And I'm going to drop another little episode just letting you know the state of affairs, what's going on, and hopefully what is happening with this podcast. I love you all. Here we go with Mr. Bradley Tucker and Josh Barron.
Hit it. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
Brad Tucker. The man, the myth behind Dayglo, Relix, so many more wonderful things that you guys do. How are you, dude? I thank you for taking the time to come on Roadie Free Radio. We're going to get into the Relix Music Conference. How's it going today, dude?
It's going good, and thanks for having me. We've been talking about this for a long time, and I think we tried to do it maybe leading up to the 2020 conference that got canceled, and then we stayed in touch, and happy to be on.
Yeah. Oh, look at this. We've got another guest coming on. Josh Barron, any moment. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. What's happening, Josh? How you doing, pal?
My apologies. I'm
good.
good.
That's okay. You're a busy man as well. So now we're joined by Josh Barron and Brad Tucker from Relix. Josh, how are you? We were just getting through the pleasantries before diving in.
Okay.
How you
great.
doing, man?
Yeah, apologies. I'm good. I'm happy to do some pleasantries, but everything's just running late. Too much,
I understand.
Working too hard. Hardly need. Wish I could do what you're doing right now. But
well, I was, of course, dude. I was telling Brad, my morning started with a fire alarm in our house going off, dog and kid outside, the whole thing. And then moments before we were supposed to start, my laptop here shit the bed. And so I'm running a little frazzled behind as well. It's all in the life of a high-class podcaster. Anyway, Relix Music Conference. Gentlemen, tell me a bit about this conference for those folks who don't know it, who haven't been. And, what's the point of this thing? What are we doing at the Relix Music Conference?
So the Relix Music Conference is doing its fourth year this coming April in Brooklyn Bowl, Nashville. And it started as a one-day conference at Brooklyn Bowl, New York in 2017. And what we tried to do was create a different experience than what you might find at the bigger conferences that are spread out in hotel ballrooms and overlapping panels, and attendees have no access to speakers and presenters. And we kept the price point low, reasonable, and did it at Brooklyn Bowl, which is all in one room. So you don't miss any of the content. The attendees, the sponsors, the speakers are all able to network and mingle because there is no backstage really or back way out where people can come in and out from. And it sold out in the first year. And then in 2018, we added a second day and the 2-day conference sold out. So we've done 3 conferences, then COVID, and this will be our first one since then. And doing it at Brooklyn Bowl, Nashville was something we always talked about once we learned that that was going to be a venue. And we are excited to bring the event there and show off Brooklyn Bowl, Nashville, and bring what we've been doing in New York to a new market. And so far, we've gotten really good response from the speakers and sponsors, and anybody who's bought tickets is excited to attend.
Good, man. And whose brainchild was this? Is this your baby, or is this the two of you guys were brainstorming one day and said, let's do this thing?
Well, from what I've been told, it was something that was talked about like before I was even at Relix, and it was always an idea that was on the table. And then in about 2016, we started talking more seriously about it. And then Pete and Rachel Barron and the team at Relix, Mike and Dean, the editors, kind of let me run with it. So I run it with a lot of help. Josh and I book it together. There's a sponsorship team. There's people that are the speaker concierge. But it was something that I was really excited to do. And in 2017, the team kind of agreed to give it a shot.
You guys have your hands in a lot of different things at Relix, at Dayglo, the Brooklyn Bowls and whatnot. Why a conference? Right, you have Lock-In, obviously. That's a festival. How does this differ from a festival? Why lean toward a conference?
I think, we, as you said, we have our hands in a lot of different things. And I think that that multifaceted nature of Dayglo lends itself to presenting a conference that looks and feels a little bit different than other conferences out there, right? There's certainly a long history of Polestar and Billboard having conferences in the music space, or Condé Nast having different stuff, and other organizations having annual conferences. And I think we felt like we could bring our own unique stamp to it. A lot of what Pete has always done is do things his own way, right? With sort of the Shapiro stamp, or with the Relix stamp, or with the Dayglo stamp, right? That's what makes Brooklyn Bowl unique. That's what's made Lock-In unique, or the Capitol Theater, or really anything that Peter has ventured into and or our companies have ventured into. And so I think, to Brad's point, we've created what we think is a unique conference dynamic in both sort of the setting and sort of the programming, and that you're going to find programming here that you're not going to find at other conferences. There could be some overlap for sure, but there's going to be some unique programming that you're not going to find elsewhere that, again, we think is just sort of unique and is distinctly us, right? That we sort of lean into our heritage and our relationships and our connections. So, again, I think, listen, if we did it the first year and no one came and no one cared, I don't think we'd be here again. I don't think we're trying to drag any mules to water. People have a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things. But I think given the success of year one and the effort that was put behind it between Brad and his team, and, I think I joined the program in year 2, Brad. And, since then it's been great, right? People have valued the conference for its intimacy, right? This isn't thousands of people, right? This is a couple hundred people that it's capped at to a small audience, right? It really allows that networking and that sort of personal feel to it. And I think people have really enjoyed it, and we've continued to be passionate about it. And, obviously we're forced to take a couple of years off, but excited to bring it back and see how it does in Nashville.
who is this conference for? Like, what's your ideal audience member? Just your average
it's
music
for people
fan,
at all
or?
stages.
Okay.
I would say it's for people at all stages of their career who want to work in the music industry. We cover a wide range of topics, all related to the live music and entertainment business. But I do believe that the conference provides value for people in internships, in college, in early stages of their career to mid to senior and executive level.
So not necessarily.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think to your point, yeah, it's not going to be your general fan of, sort of Relix and, a Relix reader or, like a general consumer. It's probably not going to be that. I mean, listen, they're certainly welcome to come. And we certainly had some of those folks come over the years just out of sheer interest. And, hey, it's here. I can do this and I have the time. Or they've tuned in. We've previously streamed it in different ways, TBD on what that's going to look like this year. But it's more of a B2B conference, but as Brad said, sort of at, wherever you may be in your career, just starting out or, you're a legend and, looking to sort of impart some wisdom to others.
Cool. Let's talk about, if we can at this point, some of the sessions that you've got going on here. I know some of the moderators and speakers haven't been totally plugged in for some of these, but just tell me about, choosing some of these and why some of these. We've got Soundcheck, the state of the business. Dean Budnick from Relix is going to moderate that. You've got the, one on mental health in the music industry. Tell me a little bit about, optimizing the fan experience. Tell me a little bit about putting these together and the decisions that go into which ones you're going to have and who you're going to have sit on some of these panels. And in that answer, let's go over some of your panelists too, and do some name dropping for us.
Yeah, Josh and I spend a lot of time on coming up with different concepts and themes that we want to cover each year, and the list gets whittled down to the 8 or 10 panels we're able to do. But there's a longer list of obviously things that we plan to do in the future that we're not able to do now. But covering mental health was something that we've always wanted to do, and give some attention to. The sound check panel that you mentioned will kind of kick off both days and be like the State of the Union, kind of what the industry looks like after the past couple of years. We'll have people representing all verticals of the industry. So we've never done a 2-day. We've never done a panel that kind of spans in 2 parts. So that was exciting to do. Some of the other ones you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, did we announce the children's programming one?
Yeah.
We did. That's something that, again, I don't think any conference has ever really covered with in great depth. And obviously we have our rock and roll playhouse program, which, is in many venues across the country. And, I think we've always, wanted to sort of explore that more, right? It's sort of oftentimes an afterthought for venues or promoters, but, it's a real business and it's important business, certainly to us. And just sort of, what does it look like to get kids engaging with content and creating some of their first concert experiences in that way, right? I think when you sort of frame it that way, people are like, oh, this is interesting. This does make sense. And, how do I adapt that? I think for optimizing the fan experience, we're bringing in Pete to that. Tom C from Live Nation, Ben Lovett from the Venue Group, who's also part of Mumford & Sons. I don't have the list in front of me. I know there's one more person on
Chrissy
that
Hall
as well.
Cool.
Right, from the Ryman. And again, I think we are very focused on fans at Dayglo. It's one of Peter's passions, right? I think that's what people respect about Pete, is that, he oftentimes is himself a fan, right? He will go into the GA pits, he will walk around a venue, or he will walk around a festival and experience things as a fan, right? So I think that's what's gotten him to where he is today to a large degree. So I think, again, everyone thinks about it, right? So, Tom C oversees all of Live Nation's venues, right? I mean, obviously you think about the tens of millions of people that are going to flow through that any given year. That is top of mind for Tom, right? And we're obviously at Brooklyn Bowl in a joint venture with Live Nation, right? So how we do things is similar, but also different, and just understanding how Tom thinks about it versus how, Ben Lovett thinks about it, right? Ben is not only a musician, artist, but has become a very successful promoter and venue operator, right? This new amphitheater out in Huntsville, Alabama, the Orion, beautiful, gorgeous amphitheater that just had its first season last year. Kicking off this year, Fish is coming to it. They have a bunch of amazing content. You know, they built that from the ground up with a very specific vision of how it integrates in the Huntsville community to build community support, and then also from like an artist perspective, right? What is it going to give the artist the best experience, right? You don't have to go to Huntsville to play. It's not a major market, so you know what is going to draw people there, right? It's the artist experience and it's the fan experience. So we thought it was great to be able to include Ben in that way to understand like what do they do to kind of get these level of acts to start coming out there and playing. And obviously it's working. So, you know, and again, I think in this day and age in particular, right, from a fan experience perspective, fans sometimes feel like an afterthought, right? And it's just like, man, what, are they even thinking about us? These ticket prices are crazy. Ticketing sucks. Like parking's expensive. The line, you know, and it's like we do think about this. I know you're frustrated, and there's some headlines making their way around the world at the moment. But you know, believe it or not, people do spend a lot of time thinking about this and sort of just giving some insight into some of that stuff.
And I would just say that this is a good example of the type of thing Josh and I try to come up with, where you know, what's different about how we can explore these topics at the Relix conference. The fan experience is not just about lights and sound. The fan experience starts when you park your car, get your ticket scanned, go through security. Is someone saying hi to you? Are the bathrooms clean? Can you get to the bar easily? Is merchandise available? You know, Pete, like Josh said, emphasizes the fan experience from thinking about it from the very beginning of when someone arrives at the venue or at your parking lot, et cetera. And we're going to dive pretty deep into that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have to drop, unfortunately. There should hopefully be a quick call. So if it's only 10 or 15 minutes, I'll definitely jump back on, see if you guys are still chatting. But Larry, great to meet you.
Would love it, Josh.
Appreciate
you too, man. You too.
And
thanks for doing it.
Hopefully we'll see you out there.
You got it, buddy.
Okay.
Hopefully.
See you soon.
All right, bye.
All right, well, now you're in the hot seat, Brad. I got a lot of stuff. You guys just brought up a lot of stuff, man. You know, let's talk a little bit about the state of the music business, right? That's something that is going to be a panel. Give me your thoughts. I would have loved to gotten both of you guys ping-ponging on this one, but you know, from your perspective at Relix, at Dayglo, Brooklyn Bowl, Capitol Theater, all these places, give me sort of what the brain think tank in your world there, what your outlook on the music business is right now, coming from where we've just come from.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, it's taken people a little bit of time to get back to what their routine was prior to COVID, going out more frequently, spending money more frequently, maybe staying up later, more nights of the week. But you know, our shows are doing well. People are coming to the venues. At the Capitol Theater in February, we just had 4 nights of Bob Weir, 2 nights of Brandy Carlisle. We're doing 4 nights of Phil Lesh to celebrate his 83rd birthday in March. We're doing 5 nights of Goose. So the bands are hitting the road and people are coming out. But it was a slow build back, especially because, you know, when people started going back out, it was over the summer, last summer. Yeah. And, you know, it takes a while to get people back indoor. But I think when we do this 2 days of panels at the conference and discuss the state of the industry as much as we will, the idea was to have people from all verticals of the industry, from a record label to retail to sponsorship to management to people who own independent venues versus people who work for large promoters. And we really want to give a full picture of what's been happening.
I was at one of those Brandy shows at the Capitol, and you know, I've been to a few shows now indoors, and you know, you definitely look around and you're like, well, I think this thing's over. There's certainly, you know, people masked up and whatnot, but it's feeling like things are back. But I guess part of my other half of this question is, particularly for bands, and I guess for audience as well, and also for crew, what is going to be different going forward? You know, I think we realized when the pandemic started, for example, that there were a lot of things wrong with the industry. how the industry took care of itself, took care of, sort of all the branches within it and the people within it. Do you guys see how things, I don't know what you want to call it, rock and roll 2.0, rock and roll business 2.0, whatever it is. Do you see how things are starting to, how we may be in a different time of this now?
I'm not really sure from all those perspectives, but I think that to some extent, people appreciated the break and the slowdown to reset your life, reset your priorities. And I do think that people have gone back on the road, back to work with that in mind, had to take care of themselves, had to be more health conscious. I don't know how that will affect the younger bands who need to play a lot and be on the road, but maybe some of the older artists are, keeping that in mind as they go back on the road, and their, home life routine versus road life routine has to kind of blend together better. I know that a lot of my friends in the industry and people that I talk to certainly are thinking about that. Had to go back to work, go back to going out, be at shows, be at festivals, have to do some traveling, but not totally get swept up in the pre-COVID kind of just go lifestyle.
Yeah. How do you, putting on a music experience, right, at a venue, whether that's indoors or outdoors, whatever it is one thing. The band is going to set the vibe, as you said, from the minute you pull up to the parking lot, the vibe can be set, all those sort of things you kind of expect, like at a music or a film thing, right? Certain vibe is going to be there. How do you do that when you're sitting watching four people on a stage talk? How do you create a cool vibe there, especially because it's a long day?
Right. Well, the first thing we have going for us is that it's at a venue and it's at Brooklyn Bowl. So we already know what that experience is like. I talk to the team there weekly now planning this conference, from where are we going to set up, check in, where the sponsorship activation is going to go, where are people going to receive their gift bag, how are we going to block off some noise so people have a place to talk and meet separate from where the conference is going on. Because the Relix conference takes place in a music venue, it is one room. That's more of a benefit than a disadvantage. The only issues we have to work around is sound, because people want to talk and meet and mingle and network, and we have to provide that opportunity, but it just can't get too loud for where the panels are happening. But we have the atmosphere of a concert venue, a cool concert venue. Mm-hmm. We have the lights, we have the sound. That's all there. And then it's just, making sure that everybody on the Relix team and our staff knows, we're going into a venue and where's everybody going to be stationed and how are we going to execute everything we need to do. And we get the blue ribbon food that Brooklyn Bowl serves. So from a customer experience, I think mostly people know what they're getting because they are familiar with the venue already. And it's not extremely different from what we do when we put a show on. The panels are about an hour each. It's about 45 minutes of talking and then 15, 20 minutes of Q&A. There's breaks in between each panel. We're going to have some music incorporated this year in this experiential zone that we're building, which we've never had the opportunity to do. Brooklyn Bowl Nashville is just bigger than Brooklyn Bowl in New York, and it has some outdoor areas that are separate. So we're able to do some things that we haven't in the past, and that's going to add to a customer experience that's just better and more. There's going to be more things going on for the customers to experience.
Is the idea ultimately to take this, Brooklyn Bowl Nashville one year not Nashville, Vegas, Philly? Is the idea to sort of move it around or pick a spot, be there for a few years and then move on?
Between Brooklyn Bowl, New York, and Nashville are probably our prime markets for this right now, at least. And the idea is to see how this one goes and see if we want to do the next one in Nashville or back in New York or down the road if there's the opportunity to do them in both markets.
Yeah, but not out in Vegas?
Not yet.
Yeah.
We need to first try the one additional city.
Right. I feel like Vegas would be a lot of distractions. You'd have a tough time pulling people back in. You've touched on this next thing a little bit, you both have a bit, and I want to just try to stamp it with a bit more specificity. So every time I have, I had Josh on and Paul Bacher on, and obviously I've had Pete on and whatnot. From your perspective, what is the Shapiro stamp? One of you guys actually said that a minute ago, but what goes into that? Pete and I, when I had him on, we dove into vibe and what vibe is, particularly from him. And I've been at several shows, and I watch the guy. He is still such a fan. And I read his book, just recently, and it's like, after all these 10,000 shows or whatever the hell it is, the guy is still a fan to the core. And as you said, he's constantly saying hi to people. He's able to zone in and give you that eye contact for the 10 seconds and make you feel like he's paying attention. For you work very closely with him. You watch him and whatnot. What's that Shapiro stamp?
One thing Pete always says is how the days are hard. There's a lot of work to be done and a lot of figuring out problems and issues and solving things. But the shows are fun. Like the end of the day is when he gets to wind down and be at the show that he's booked and worked on and been excited for. He looks at things from a fan's perspective. I don't think most people who get into his position always do. But it's served him certainly in a positive way, because he's able to implement things in our venues and in our businesses that because he looks at it from a fan perspective that the fans will respond to. It's not just from his executive office making calls and phone calls and making decisions. It's from experiences. He goes to all of our venues. He meets with all the teams regularly. He's hanging with people, asking questions, getting feedback, and that informs his decision making. Mm-hmm. So when you ask what is the Shapiro magic or so, it's being able to look at things from a fan perspective and then implement change and ways our venues should be operating and our businesses should be operating.
How do you think like fans taste levels and levels of expectation have changed? That's the question, and I want to give it some context for you. And I'm not bringing this up to call out this other entertainment group's situation, but I will call out the name of this festival. So over the summer, I went to the second day of Sound on Sound in Bridgeport. Brandy Carlisle's headlining, Dave Matthews, right? The morning before we left, I got an email from them that sent out to everybody that was like, hey folks, we hear you. There were issues last night, right? We know the sound had a problem. We know the walkways, whatever, there was a problem. We know there was a food issue. By the time I get there, and I was like, oh, okay. And they were like, we've addressed it. We stayed up late, did this whole thing. By the time I got there on Sunday and was waiting in line for stuff, people were talking and they were pissed. Anyone who'd been there the night before, they said, oh, my friend didn't come back. The sound, all these things. You wait an hour and a half, 2 hours, there's no food, this and that. And part of me felt, perhaps because of my perspective of being quasi in the industry and talking to people, I know what goes into all this shit. I know it's a lot of work. I felt like, God, it's their first time pulling off this festival in this venue. Give them a break, man. Like they're working on it. And I felt like there's no, again, fans' level of, I don't want to say entitlement, but their sense of like, it's got to be perfect out of the gate seems to be there. And so there's not a lot of room for error,
Sound on Sound was a first-year festival, so that was literally their first day ever of being an event.
Yeah.
And for them to recognize, for them to actually understand what the issues were and the complaints and what fans were dissatisfied with and stay up and try to rectify that and make changes for the next day, I think you probably can't ask for anything better. Yeah. But on the other side, things are expensive and people pay a lot of money to go to these things. And if they have to stay in hotels or get Airbnbs and whatnot. So I see both sides of it. And, you pay money, you want to go to something, you expect a high level of production and execution and stuff. But at the same time, you gotta give a little leeway for the event promoters and stuff to figure stuff out. And if they made changes on their first day that you could noticeably see on the second day ever, I think that's commendable.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, man. Absolutely. Brad, if we could take a couple of minutes before I let you go, just to talk about your track, where you came from in this world, how you came up in it, if you want to just give that to us in a snapshot, because you do a lot of stuff, man. You do a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah, I've been working at the Dayglo Relix organization for almost 12 years. I grew up in New York. When I was growing up in high school and stuff, Pete started doing concerts. This was after Wetlands. He was doing like the Jammies, and he was putting out films like U2 3D and All Access. And I became familiar with the Jammies first because of the talent he was getting. Then when I was in college, I was reading Relix already. So when I was in college, he had taken over Relix and opened Brooklyn Bowl, and doing all the music that I really like the Grateful Dead, Fish, DMB scene, jam band scene, which is what I like, which is what he likes. So I became really interested in this guy who liked the music that I like, bought the magazine I had been reading, opened a cool venue that was doing shows I like. But what I really was attracted to was that he wasn't just in one lane. He was really doing a lot of things with his interest. And that was something that immediately I thought was very cool, something I would like to kind of do if I could eventually. So after college, I wanted to work in music, and working for Pete was really where I wanted to work. I came to Relix for an internship, and I was vocal at the time about wanting to work for Pete specifically. I got hired for the internship in the interview, and I became Pete's intern through Relix Magazine. So I was the publisher's intern. And 6 months later, he hired me as his assistant. So I've been working with him really since the beginning, and I'm now director of project management for Dayglo Presents, which is the parent company to everything we do, and the director of business development for Relix, which is what we do the conference through and other things. So I still work with Pete very closely. I handle a lot of his day-to-day stuff, but throughout the past 11 years, I've taken on a lot of additional responsibility and been able to work on a lot of our businesses and be a part of a lot of the shows and Fare Thee Well and the opening of new venues and all the years of lock-in and everything that we do here now. So yeah, I've been with him for a while. I've learned a tremendous amount, and it's great. It's still great.
What's your favorite part of coming to work there?
I like being a part of the shows. I like being on this side of the concert industry. I like going to the venues and walking around and checking stuff out and seeing what people are doing and how the staff's working. And I kind of just like to wander around by myself, check everything out. I do that even when I'm not at our own venues. I like just seeing how things work and the operations of it all and how it all flows. So I obviously love going to concerts. I go to a lot, and being able to do that, which is what I like to do, mixed with what I do for work, has really been something that I appreciate.
Was there a moment for you? You mentioned, being a fan of all those bands in college and growing up and all that stuff. Was there a moment for you when you started working at Relix and with Pete, when you're like, oh my God, I'm doing it. Like there's Bob Weir, like right there. I'm like, I know Bob now, Yeah,
definitely. And it happens all the time where I'm just kind of like recognizing that I'm standing here next to Bob Weir or next to Phil Lesh or,
right.
The guys in J-Rad or like some of the guys in Fish or Billy Strings or Goose, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, it just takes you a second to like,
what the fuck?
It just takes a second,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not
but
only
even the
are
industry
you,
people.
Yeah. Right.
I'm as excited to be around these guys in the industry that I knew about before I started working. Like, one of the reasons I realized you could work in music was I was such a fan of Dave Matthews Band growing up, and I still am. Mm-hmm. I would look at the back of like the CDs or whatever you could find on the internet at the time, and I'd be like, oh, like, look at this is the manager, this is the agent, this is so-and-so. Like, you can work with these bands. Like, being in music is not just the artist, which is obvious now, but when you're in high school, you start to figure out these things. I was like, oh, like, I don't play music. I'll never get in the band, but I can work with the band because they have people that do other things.
Right.
And that kind of led me to Pete eventually. Like, I want to work for this guy. Like, you can work in music. He owns a venue. He owns the magazine I've been reading for a long time. He put out films. He did this award show that was one of a kind. Like, if he has the kind of entrepreneurial personality that I want to be around.
Yeah, for sure, man. All right, let's bring it back to the conference really quick. Let's talk about ticket prices. If people want to go, when can they buy tickets? What are some surprises that are going to be happening at this show? By the time this episode comes out, which is going to be around the 13th of March, what do we got? What do we got to look forward to in April? And the dates. God, we didn't even hit the dates, so I probably hit them in the intro for you, but let's talk about this thing.
Yeah. So the conference is April 17th and 18th, 2023. It's a Monday, Tuesday, so people can fly in Sunday, fly out Wednesday, and it'll be a full 2 days of programming. Starts around 10 o'clock and goes till about 5 o'clock. We'll have some shows going on at night that we're about to announce. We have a lot of artist announcements that are going to be coming out soon. In the past, we've done this We Be Spelling. That was a fundraiser for Headcount. And if anybody looks it up or remembers, it featured Andy Frasco in the UN. So that's something people can look forward to. But everything is available on relixmusicconference.com. It'll have the schedule. It'll have what comes with the tickets. All the meals are served at Brooklyn Bowl. There's some happy hours that everybody's welcome to attend. All the evening programming everybody stays for. But one thing that we're going to announce in the next week or so, and if this comes out around March 13, I guess we're in good shape. But we've confirmed Peter Frampton, legend rocker, for one of our headlining slots, and we've confirmed John Oates for the second headliner slot. So that will be announced before March 13th. If not, we're going to have to regroup. But that's the plan. We're going to do a lot of music industry folks and then feature these two guys that have evolved from being huge rock stars playing Madison Square Garden to being more involved in the business of music. So we're really excited. We haven't had them before. We try to get new speakers each year to keep it different, and we couldn't be more excited to have these two guys.
Awesome. Well, Brad, man, thank you so much. I couldn't be more excited to have you on and Josh on. For the short moment I had them, I'll have to circle back, of course, and I hope to see you guys in Nashville. And again, thank you so much for doing this and taking the time. I know you're all super busy over there, so it means a lot, man.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You've had other people from various parts of our teams on, and everybody listens to the podcast and appreciates getting on. So thanks for having me and Josh, and hope you're at the conference in April.
I know. I'm gunning for it. I'm gunning for it, man. And yes, I'm working my way through the Relix offices like a groupie.
Yeah. Cool, man.
All right.
Well, thank you.
All right, guys, there you go. There you have it. There it is. Brad Tucker and Josh Barron, thank you so much for being on the show. Don't forget, folks, you can still get passes for the Relix Music Conference by heading over to relixmusicconference.com, picking up some passes. Head down to Nashville, April 17th and 18th. You're not going to want to miss it. And don't forget, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to check out and subscribe to the mailing list and our YouTube channel. And, of course, check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com. And please send me a note because you know I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. And in the meantime, y'all be safe out there. No roadies, no rock and roll.